Hello viewers, and welcome to our series entitled When Church Hurts. I'm Pastor Colin, and this series is going to help and encourage people that have been misused, abused, ill-treated, belittled, rejected, or hurt in various ways within a church context. For those who have become disillusioned with some of the shenanigans going on in churches today and are absolutely fed up of it. Having said that, let's jump straight into today's episode. Hello viewers, and welcome to another episode of When Church Hurts. This week, we're going to have a look at spiritual abuse from a different perspective, and that is when congregants abuse their leaders. Now, the word abuse may seem an inappropriate or a very strong word to be using in this context, but the Bible does have something to say about the ill treatment of godly leaders. But before we go into our lesson, let me give you a definition of abuse when it pertains to leaders. And that is when an individual or group of individuals attempts to control, dominate, or manipulate a person in the position of leadership. Now, let's have a look at what the Bible has to say about these kinds of situations. We're going to go to Numbers chapter 16, verses 1 to 3. One day, Korah, son of Ishar, grandson of Kohath, and a descendant of Levi, conspired with Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and On, the son of Peleth, all three from the tribe of Reuben, to incite a rebellion against Moses. 250 popular leaders, all members of the assembly, were involved. They went to Moses and Aaron and said, "We have had enough of your presumption. You are no better than anyone else. Everyone in Israel has been chosen of the Lord, and he is with all of us. What right do you have to put yourself forward, claiming that we must obey you and acting as though you are greater than anyone else among all the people of the Lord?" So here we have representatives of the congregation challenging Moses' leadership by A, stating that they believed others were equally suited to take his position, and B, accusing him of putting himself forward to lead and demanding to be obeyed. They were clearly in error, as God had made it very clear back in Egypt that Moses was his appointed leader. That's in Exodus chapter 3 verse 10. "Come now therefore, and I will send you to Pharaoh that you may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt." Even though a person may have the position of a leader, sometimes others may view their leader as being incompetent or feel that they or someone else would be better qualified or suited for the role instead. This can be very difficult to handle in such situations, but the best thing a leader can do is to go to God and pray for his guidance. Let's continue the story in Numbers 16, verses 8 to 11. Then Moses said to Korah, "Hear now, you sons of Levi, is it a small thing to you that God of Israel has separated you from the congregation of Israel to bring you near to himself, to do the work of the tabernacle of the Lord, and to stand before the congregation to serve them? And that he has brought you near to himself, you and all your brethren, the sons of Levi, with you? And are you seeking the priesthood also? Therefore, you and all the company are gathered together against the Lord. And what is Aaron that you complain against him?" So far, the story tells us that Korah was already in a position of subordinate leadership to Moses, and this is where God had placed him. He was a Levite, a tabernacle assistant. He became envious of Moses' position of leadership and dissatisfied with his own. He viewed himself and others as being equally suited to the position that Moses had as a senior leader. And this led to him stirring up a rebellion amongst other subordinate leaders and persuading them to turn against Moses. We're going to continue the story to see how Moses handles the situation. Number 16, verses 16 to 19. And Moses said to Korah, "Tomorrow you and all your company be present before the Lord, you and they, as well as Aaron. Let each take his censer and put incense in it, and each of you bring his censer before the Lord, 250 censers, both you and Aaron, each with his censer." So every man took his censer, put fire in it, laid incense on it, and stood at the door of the tabernacle of the meeting with Moses and Aaron. And Korah gathered all the congregation against them at the door of the tabernacle of meeting. Then the glory of the Lord appeared to all the congregation. Moses told each of them to bring a censer of incense and come before God. Now, incense in the Old Testament is symbolic of prayer. So in effect, what Moses was saying to them was, let everyone come before God in prayer and we will see how God responds. Notice Moses did not bother to get into any arguments whatsoever. He simply relied upon God to exonerate him in front of all the people. Now let's see what God has to say next. Number 16, verses 20 to 27. And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, "Separate yourselves from among this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment." Then they fell on their faces and said, "O God, the God of the spirits of all flesh, shall one man sin and you be angry with all the congregation?" So the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the congregation, saying, get away from the tents of Korah, Dathan and Abiram." Then Moses rose and went to Dathan and Abiram, and the elders of Israel followed. And he spoke to the congregation, saying, "Depart now from the tents of these wicked men. Touch nothing of theirs, lest you be consumed all in their sins." So they got away from around the tents of Korah, Dathan and Abiram. And Dathan and Abiram came out and stood at the door of their tents with their wives, their sons, and their little children. God warns the congregation to step away from the instigators of the rebellion. In other words, the people were to dissociate themselves from those who are causing trouble. Otherwise, they too would suffer the consequences of being part of the rebellion. Let's continue in verse 28 of number 16. And Moses said, "By this you shall know that the Lord has sent me to do all these works, for I have not done them of my own will. If these men die naturally like all men, or if they are visited by the common fate of all men, then the Lord has not sent me. But if the Lord creates a new thing, and the earth opens its mouth and swallows them up with all that belongs to them, and they go down alive into the pit, then you will understand that these men have rejected the Lord." Now it came to pass, as he finished speaking all these words, that the ground split apart under them, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up, and their households, and all the men with Korah, with all their goods. So they and all those with them went down alive into the pit. The earth closed over them, and they perished from among the assembly. What have we learnt so far in this story? Well, number one, God takes it personally when people rebel and or are abusive to those who he has appointed. Number two, murmuring and complaining causes division and can negatively affect the whole congregation or ministry. And three, congregants should disassociate themselves from those who are causing division and stirring up rebellion against the leadership. A person needs to truly comprehend the seriousness of their rebellious actions against God-appointed leaders. Now, there may be times when a person feels that they are really struggling with the person's style of leadership or their methods or their personality. However, a much better and biblical response would be to go to God for the wisdom to bring forth any genuine concerns in the right manner, but privately. Now, let's have a look at another story where people are coming against a God-appointed leader. And yet again, this is another story including Moses. So let's read from Numbers chapter 12, verses 1 to 10. Then Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married, for he had married an Ethiopian woman. So they said, Has the Lord indeed spoken only through Moses? Has he not spoken through us also? And the Lord heard it. Now the man Moses was very humble, more than all men who were on the face of the earth. Suddenly the Lord said to Moses, Aaron and Miriam, "Come out, you three, to the tabernacle of meeting." So the three came out. Then the Lord came down in the pillar of cloud and stood in the door of the tabernacle and called Aaron and Miriam. And they both went forward. Then he said, "Hear now my words. If there is a prophet among you, I, the Lord, make myself known to him in a vision. I speak to him in a dream. Not so with my servant Moses. He is faithful in all my house. I speak with him face to face, even plainly, and not in dark sayings. And he sees the form of the Lord. Why then were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moses?" So the anger of the Lord was aroused against them, and he departed. And when the cloud departed from above the tabernacle, suddenly Miriam became leprous, as white as snow. Then Aaron turned toward Miriam, and there she was, a leper. So what can we deduce from this story so far? Well, Miriam and Aaron were the older siblings of Moses. The real issue was not about Moses' wife, it was about his leadership. But they used his wife as an occasion to find fault. They had a similarly bad attitude to Korah in our last story, implying that God could use any of them. And God took their criticism of Moses personally. Now Miriam had played a significant role in Moses' life being spared and being brought up by the Pharaoh's daughter. Moses had a past. He had murdered someone back in Egypt, and it was a widely known fact. However, God still decided to use him many years after this event. There seems to be some over-familiarity going on here for them to feel able to criticize their younger brother, even though he was their leader. A person may become over-familiar with a leader to the point that they become disrespectful towards them. If a person does not truly respect their leaders, it may not be obvious initially until that leader does something that they do not agree with. This is why it is imperative that leaders prayerfully tune into those they are leading, especially subordinate leaders who have the potential to cause a great deal of damage to a ministry. So what kinds of things may be indicators of a rebellious attitude towards leadership? Well, it could be A, unwarranted or unjustifiable criticism of the leadership or the ministry. B, sowing discord, spreading gossip about the leader and encouraging others to rebel. C, withholding support of the ministry, i.e. financially, time, talents or giftings, etc. D, refusing to truly submit to the leadership. E, disrespectful over familiarity to the point of being inappropriate and rude. Or F, having an attitude that says, "I can do a much better job than the actual leader," effectively implying that they know better than God. Well, that's it for today. Don't forget to check out our other videos in this series and subscribe to our channel for more videos as they come out. Join us next time for another episode of When Church Hurts. But until then, stay strong, take care, and keep the faith.